Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
Port Charles has seen betrayals, courtroom explosions, and family implosions, but nothing compares to the devastation unleashed when an innocent voice speaks a truth adults were too afraid to face. What unfolded was not loud at first. There were no slammed gavels or screaming accusations. Instead, the most painful reckoning arrived quietly, through the words of a child whose world had just been turned upside down. Wiley had learned a secret. And once he spoke it aloud, nothing, and no one, would ever be the same again. The tension was noticeable long before Wiley said a word. Those closest to him sensed it immediately. There was something heavy in his eyes, something far too old for a child his age. He wasn't playful. He wasn't distracted. He was focused in a way that made the adults around him uneasy. Willow noticed it first. She tried to brush it off, telling herself Wiley was just overwhelmed by everything happening around him lately. Court cases. Whispers. Raised voices behind closed doors. But deep down, fear gnawed at her. Children hear more than adults realize. And they understand more than they're given credit for. Michael felt it too. He watched his son carefully, torn between wanting to protect him and knowing that protection sometimes comes too late. Because the truth had already reached Wiley. And it had changed him. The baptism begins, and it started with a simple question. Wiley looked at Willow, his small hands clenched tightly, his voice trembling just slightly as he asked something that stopped her heart cold. It wasn't accusatory. It wasn't angry. It was confused. Why didn't you tell me? The room went silent. Willow's breath caught. She knelt down, trying to meet Wiley at eye level, already preparing to reassure him. But before she could speak, he continued, each word heavier than the last. I know what you did. I know what you and the grown-ups didn't tell me. That was the moment the baptism began, not of water, but of truth washing over a family that had already been cracked beyond repair. The truth spilled out slowly, painfully. Wiley explained that he had overheard conversations he wasn't supposed to hear. Whispers between adults who assumed he was asleep. Arguments filled with regret, guilt, and fear. And then, when he asked questions, someone had finally told him, perhaps thinking honesty would help. Instead, it destroyed him. Wiley learned that choices had been made about his life without his knowledge. That people he trusted had decided what was best for him while keeping him in the dark. That Willow, the person he believed would never lie to him, had been part of that silence. It wasn't just one secret. It was the realization that his entire sense of safety had been built on half-truths. Willow tried to explain. She told Wiley she had only wanted to protect him. That she believed shielding him from painful truths would keep him safe. Her voice broke as she reminded him of the love she had given him, the sacrifices she had made, the countless times she had chosen him over herself. But Wiley wasn't listening anymore. Because once a child realizes the adults they trust are capable of lying, love no longer feels safe. Tears streamed down Willow's face as she reached for him, but Wiley stepped back. That single step felt like a knife to her chest. Michael stepped in, his heart breaking as he watched his son struggle with emotions no child should have to carry. He spoke gently, reminding Wiley that grown-ups make mistakes, that love doesn't disappear because of fear or poor judgment. Others tried too. Soft voices. Reassuring tones. Promises that everything could be worked through with time. But Wiley shook his head. Encouraging words couldn't undo what he had learned. They couldn't erase the feeling that his life had been controlled, his trust manipulated. And most of all, they couldn't fix the fact that Willow had kept the truth from him. Then came the words no one was prepared to hear. Wiley looked directly at Willow, his eyes filled not with anger, but with resolve. I don't want you to be my mom anymore. The room froze. Willow gasped, collapsing into sobs as the weight of that sentence crushed her. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't confusion. This was a decision. Wiley explained that he needed distance. That he couldn't pretend things were okay. That every time he looked at Willow now, he remembered the secret she helped keep from him. "I trusted you the most," he said quietly. That was the cruelest blow of all. The fallout was immediate. Voices were raised. Accusations flew. Some demanded to know who had told Wiley the truth and why it had been handled so recklessly. Others blamed Willow outright, insisting she had crossed an unforgivable line. In the shadows, resentment boiled over. Someone issued a heated warning, making it clear that Wiley's pain would not be ignored, and that consequences were coming for anyone who had hurt him emotionally. Port Charles has always been dangerous when adults fight. But it becomes explosive when children are hurt. In the days that followed, Willow barely functioned. The house felt empty, even when people surrounded her. Wiley's laughter haunted every room. His absence felt like a physical wound. She replayed every moment in her mind, every decision, every lie by omission, wondering how she could have believed silence was love. Michael tried to be there for her, but even he struggled with resentment. He couldn't deny that Wiley's pain was real. And he couldn't force his son to forgive before he was ready. Willow was left alone with her grief. Rejected not by a judge, but by the child she loved most. Despite his firm words, Wiley wasn't untouched by what he'd done. He cried in private. He questioned himself. He missed Willow even as he pushed her away. But something inside him had shifted. He had learned that truth matters, even when it hurts. And he refused to accept a relationship built on secrets. That realization marked the end of his innocence. And the beginning of a long, painful road toward healing. As news spread, the town split into camps. Some defended Willow, insisting her intentions had been pure. Others believed Wiley's rejection was justified, arguing that children deserve honesty, even when it's difficult. Old grudges resurfaced. New alliances formed. And beneath it all simmered a dangerous question. Who else is hiding the truth? This wasn't just a family disagreement. It was a reckoning. A child spoke the truth adults were too afraid to face, and in doing so, he forced everyone to confront the consequences of their choices. Wiley learned a secret that shattered his trust. Willow lost the child who defined her world. And Port Charles was reminded once again that lies, no matter how well-intentioned, always come at a cost. The baptism has begun. Not with forgiveness, but with truth. And the scars it leaves behind will take a lifetime to heal. Britt came home to her room above Bobby's and was irked to see Jason there, examining her drug. He wondered how she was doing so well, given that being Huntington specifics aren't this effective. She told him that she was taking an experimental drug. Not satisfied, Jason declared that effects weren't adding up and wanted to know what was really going on. He bothered that if whoever is supplying her phenomenon medicine cuts her off, her symptoms would come back. Jason also participated his proposition that she was entering the drug in exchange for her work at the Five Poppies, and that work was still going on. He added that he knew Dalton was involved and conceivably Sidwell. Britt tried to cover, but eventually caved and asked what he wanted. Jason explained that he wanted to get her drug tested so they could make their own and free her from being at the mercy of the person forcing her to do all this. Plus, they could help other people suffering from Huntington's. Jason also opened his heart to her. "I've no way judged you," he participated. "I've only ever tried to help you. I was with you when you got your opinion. I came to find you in Croatia. When you had that lemon strapped to your ankle, and you were soliciting me to go, I stayed. I've no way turned my reverse on you. And I'm not gonna start now. So please just let me help you." Moved by his sincere words, Britt rushed into his arms and kissed him passionately, ahead stepping back and declaring, "Not a chance." Nina was floored to find Michael and Jacinda about to have coitus in her office and stormed out to let them get dressed. Once they were clothed again, Nina blasted the brace and hovered to call HR because this constituted sexual importunity, as Michael was their master. But Michael informed her that he'd told HR about his relationship with Jacinda as soon as she began working for Sunup. Seeing a developer dress on the bottom, Nina scolded Jacinda before turning back to Michael to bewail that since the police set up another suspect, Willow would be at that visit Hale in January. Michael advised Nina not to avenge against Jacinda, and Nina agreed not to go to HR as long as they agreed not to have coitus in her office. After Michael left, Nina instructed Jacinda that if she gutted up her mess and put all the dresses back where they came from, she'd look the other way. She also reminded her that she was in charge then, and if she truly wanted to leave her former convoying job behind her and start fresh, she demanded to keep that in mind. Incipiently, she advised her that Michael would gutter her as soon as he got what he wanted, inferring that Nina was the only one she could truly trust. When Willow showed up at the Quartermaines, Chase reminded her that she was allowed at the estate. She revealed that the charges against her were about to be dropped and prayed to see her kitties. Chase was happy to hear that the police had a new suspect, but refocused out that the judge's ruling couldn't be changed until the coming visit Hale. He also noted that if someone set up out she'd sneaked onto the property, it would hurt her case, but Willow was pertinacious. Still, before Chase could decide one way or the other, Brooke Lynn walked by and ordered Willow out, stunned that her hubby had let her in. She blasted Willow for asking her hubby to break a court order on top of everything differently he's formerly risked to prove her innocence. Willow apologized for putting them both in this position, but asked them to keep this visit between them. Chase promised, and Brooke Lynn's eyes grew wide when he assured her the visit Hale would go well. After Willow left, Brooke Lynn wondered how he could let Willow take advantage of him like that. Chase swore he wasn't going to let Willow see the kitties, but she argued he looked like he was wavering when she walked by on them. Chase protested that if he was suitable, he wanted to do what he could to help his partner. Brooke Lynn felt bad for Willow, but advised her hubby that he needs to take a step back. Chase admitted it was good she'd intruded them, as he noted how bad it would be if Michael had seen her then. Just also, Michael walked by. They assured him that they'd induced Willow to leave before she saw the kitties, and he was thankful. When he asked them to subscribe statements to the judge saying she was then, Chase refused. Michael wondered why telling the verity was so delicate for the operative, and Chase angrily declared he didn't want to come between a mama and her children. As the two men moved towards each other, Brooke Lynn stepped in between and prayed them to call a truce. After viewing some new security footage, Dante asked to review Willow's statement. Justine joined him and Nathan in the interrogation room and was surprised to learn that the new substantiation didn't interlace Curtis. They showed her the business cam clip, which was of Willow in her auto on Drews Road at the time of the firing. Justine complained that it wasn't definitive enough to secure a conviction, but allowed that it would help their case. Dante noted it also didn't negate what they had on Curtis, and asked who she wanted to go later. She admitted that with Willow's trial coming up, they should follow up on this new substantiation. Dante and Nathan assured her they'd continue combing footage to see if they could find further. Christina intruded Alexis working at home to deliver takeout from Bobby's and ask how Willow's case was going. Alexis admitted that the police may have set up a new suspect, which was great for Willow, but not for them. She reminded Christina that their deal with Drew regarding Scout was contingent on her proving Willow's innocence, which she can't do if she doesn't go on trial, so he could decide to keep the restraining order in place. Christina didn't suppose he'd do that, but abominated that Drew was holding this over their heads. They also wondered how this could affect Willow's attempts to recapture guardianship of the kitties. Justine called Alexis to inform her they weren't dropping the case against Willow, and, in fact, had new substantiation, which she'd pass on. Dante and Nathan gave the acting DA the clearances she'd requested, and she instructed them to drop the charges against Curtis. Nathan protested, but she assured him they could always readdress that case. After Justine and Dante left, Nathan called Nina to ask her to come down to the station, and when she arrived, he sorely informed her that Willow had prevaricated in her statement and new substantiation put her near Drew's house, so they were dropping the charges against Curtis and moving forward with executing her. Outdoors, Justine presented Dante with the approved clearances to pierce the fresh security footage and asked if he'd be okay when she put him on the stage to swear against his former family-in-law. Hanging behavior at the police station, Drew admitted that while he was convinced Curtis had shot him, he wasn't the bone. He wanted to go down for it. Curtis again claimed he didn't try to kill him, but advised that if he went down, he was taking Drew with him. He informed the Solon that if he goes on trial, he'd swear and expose Drew's blackmail of Portia and how he abused his power to target Stella. Drew didn't believe he'd throw Portia under the machine, but Curtis blazoned that his marriage was over, so he didn't watch presently. Drew offered to suddenly flash back what happened to him if Curtis actually went to trial, but at that moment, Dante intruded. "Curtis, I've good news for you," he reported. "Not so important for you, Congressman." Isaiah checked up on Portia in her sanitarium room and was pleased to learn that she was doing well. Upon hearing she was specified many days of bed rest, he invited her to spend them with him, relaxing at his cabin. Trina intruded, and Portia covered that Dr. Gannon was just going through some treatment options. He excused himself, and Trina was happy to hear that nothing was wrong with her or the baby, asking, "When were you gone? Nah, tell me about that, Mama?" Portia apologized for not telling her about the gestation sooner, explaining she wanted to keep it quiet until she was sure the baby was safe. Learning that her father knew about that Portia was awaiting, Trina hoped it might change effects for them, but Portia said they had other issues. Trina complained that when she visited Curtis in captivity, Jordan showed up, news that didn't surprise Portia. Latterly, Curtis arrived at the sanitarium and asked Isaiah about Portia. Isaiah advised that she couldn't have any stress right now and refocused him towards her room. Trina bothered about what would be if her father was set up shamefaced of shooting Drew, and Portia prompted her not to worry about that yet. When Curtis entered, Trina happily ran into his arms. He verified with Portia that she and the baby were okay, also assured her that he was fine and now they were together with their son and their little bone. On the way, Portia forced a smile onto her face, but her eyes betrayed her discomfort. Isaiah was about to enter the room, but hung back upon seeing them all together. Curtis invited Portia to recoup at home rather of her hostel room, and when Isaiah gave a silent nod of assent from the doorway, she reluctantly agreed. Willow arrived at Alexis's, hoping to hear that her charges had officially been dismissed, but Alexis wanted to know why Willow had been lying to her and the police. She showed Willow the footage of her in the auto and told her that if she wanted to stay out of captivity, she had to start telling the verity about what really happened the night Drew was shot. Just also, Drew rushed in to talk about the new substantiation he'd heard about. Alexis informed him that two vids show Willow coming and going from the scene of the crime at the time of the firing, but Willow claimed she had only driven past Drew's hearthstone. Drew assured his woman that he believed in her innocence, but Alexis wasn't sure she could move a jury of the same thing. "I'll do everything in my power to prove that you're innocent," the attorney promised. "But unfortunately, that little taradiddle you told the PCPD is gone. Now make my job a lot harder."